The gentleman is recognized for 5 minutes.
I'd like to thank the gentleman for yielding. I request unanimous consent to revise and extend my remarks.
Without objection.
Mr. Speaker, every day I'm inspired by the unwavering determination of our fighting men and women who continue to serve with valor in Iraq and Afghanistan. Their commitment to serving our country represents the very best America has to offer, and we owe them our debt of gratitude. Mr. Speaker, I too wondered how this resolution would affect our troops. In recent hearings of the House Armed Services Committee, of which I am a member, when asked about the impact of this debate on our troops, General Peter Pace, the chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff, a man I hold in very high regard, said, and I quote, "From the standpoint of our troops, I believe that they understand how our legislature works and that they understand that there's going to be this kind of debate. But most importantly," he told us, "there is no doubt in my mind that the dialogue here in Washington strengthens our democracy, period." Mr. Speaker, I had 2 Iraqi war veterans in my office this afternoon, and I asked them about this resolution. And they said, "Congressman, let me tell you what the guys over there think about. They think about doing their job, they think about staying alive, and they think about getting home to their families." General Pace and these soldiers are right. Our democracy is strengthened when we engage in vigorous debate about solutions to the challenges that we face. And there is not a more pressing, more important challenge than before us than this war right now. But let me be perfectly clear. I strongly and I unequivocally support our troops, and I challenge anybody that questions my patriotism. As a result, we must provide the equipment and the resources that our troops on the ground need to complete their mission safely. Their safety should never be compromised by our disagreements here in Washington, D.C. Despite our differences, I believe the President is sincere in his desire to bring a successful end to the war in Iraq. But he has failed to convince me that sending these 21,000 additional troops represents a new or successful strategy. We went to Iraq under a failed plan in 2003, and we can't afford to take the same failed path. More importantly, we owe our fighting men and women better than what we're giving them. We need to know that the goals for success are well defined, that benchmarks are in place for both the Iraqis and for America, and that the Iraqi government will live up to their end of the bargain. So far they have not, and there is no indication that says they will now. For too long, Mr. Speaker, our country has gone without questioning whether there is a better way forward in Iraq. And before we send these 21,000 men and women into harm's way, we must ask ourselves these questions. Does this plan, and I remind you that I asked General Pace these questions myself and asked him to look me in the eye and answer these. Does this plan produce less violence and fewer roadside bombs? Does it ensure our military can meet their other threats to security in our homeland and across the country? Does it move us closer to the day when our fighting men and women can come home and America is at peace? I don't believe this plan answers any of those in the affirmative or with a yes. Over the last few weeks, I've listened to generals, I've heard from constituents, and I've talked to military families. And after countless hours of consideration, my gut tells me that I can't believe that this plan is the answer. Unfortunately, this plan still gives no clear indication of the consequence if the Iraqis fail to meet their commitment that they made to us over the last few years. To date, our military has done everything we've called on them to do, yet the Iraqi leaders have not lived up to their commitments. I believe the time has come for the Iraqi government to step up and halt the sectarian violence, find the political will to solve their own problems, and take charge of their own destiny. That is ultimately the key to finding a successful conclusion to this war and to bring our brave men and women home. And I yield back the balance of my time. Thank you.